The second generation of artists are artists from the 1800s and includes Tommy McRae and William Barak, who sort of stood at the edge of the frontier and had a foot in both camps. They looked forward and could see what colonisation brought, and they could look backwards and sort of see the landscape and their communities that they once were. And both of these men later in life turned to making artworks, and in many ways started to reflect on the world that they remembered as young men. This is the site of Lake Murruwaygu, which is on the New South Wales-Victorian border. This is the home of Tommy McRae, who was one of the sort of central artists of the 1800s.
I don't like to read that they started doing figurative art because they were influenced by European art. I don't think that's the case at all. I think figurative art was part of their culture and they told particular stories.
Tommy McRae was working really with a pen and ink on paper process that would see him slowly make tiny little marks on his page. They resemble the same markings that you'd make on a boomerang. So that idea of slowly chipping something away, slowly etching it out.
William Barak is my great-great-uncle. I hope what I've inherited from him is a part of his beautiful storytelling, and that's what his paintings are about.
What's so special about the work of William Barak is they capture the Wurundjuri world that I guess we can only imagine.
They're deeper than just a storytelling. They're the way in which ceremony takes place. They're about that song lines of being connected to animals, to the land, and of course the people themselves, how strong they are, how proud they are.
You get a sense of the movement that he creates by the sort of line work. It's always seemed to me to be more related to some of the carving on the shields.
William Barak helped establish the community of Koori, and he soon became the Narangita, or leader of that community, the Wurundjuri community, who were the traditional owners for the Melbourne region. And it was also from here that he began painting.
The great thing now is that the works have been in exhibitions and have been published, and people get a bit of a glimpse of something sort of different.
Yeah, Barak's painting is that beautiful foundation of times gone by, beautiful times, significant times, and a journey to follow.
Yeah, this is just such an amazing part of the world. You could see why Tommy McRae would want to live here. And one of the things that really strikes me is that coming here on this beautiful, calm day, the lake is almost like glass. And so when you look at a lot of those images of his, of people fishing on the river, hunting swans and hunting turtles, you can just imagine it happening here.
Tommy McRae, obviously such an interesting person, and we only know, fragments of his life.
The family would hunt fish and sell the fish to the town, would raise chooks, sell the chickens, and he would also make artwork, shields and boomerangs, and he would also get books and just start drawing in them, and started becoming quite recognised as a really sort of master artist, doing his little pen and ink drawings, which really document a whole series of life that he would have experienced as a young man growing up. It's been estimated that he was probably a young boy when the sort of colonial frontier moves through all of these countries.
He was an entrepreneur in the way that he sort of set himself up and refused really to go into one of the missions, made a sort of life for himself and his family and his wider family group.
Even though he was respected and and looked after his family, the board, the Aboriginal Protection Board, came and took away all his kids. Often he would try and jump the border to evade the authorities, but eventually the authorities took every one of his kids away. But his books and his images have sort of lived on as almost gifts. Even though they're amazingly sort of pared back and minimalistic, they're actually filled with an enormous amount of information. People like yourself who are a link to those older generations that are part of, you know, you've been a key part of this, you know, cultural resurgence. And these lines that are finding their way through the generations and giving us a fire today to sort of to go by.
Yeah.